Can you please take your seat?
Can't you get that large room?
Thank you for coming. My name is Minghua Zhang. I am the Dean of the School of Marine and Atmospheric Sciences at the Stony Brook University. My school is the New York State Center for Research and Education in Marine and Atmospheric Sciences. We have over 500 students and 45 faculty members. Thanks to the excellent works of our people, the support of the university administration, and our friends, we have been in the upward trajectory and we have a very bright future. Recently, the National Research Council ranked us as one of the top 6 PhD programs in the country. It is all fitting and appropriate that we use our knowledge and expertise to protect the environment and marine resources here on the island. Now it is my honor to introduce Dr. Samuel Stanley, President of the university, who for the second time during this summer comes to this place to make yet another major announcement. The first marked the groundbreaking of the new Marine Science Center here next to this place. And today to make another announcement of an important event for the school. President Stanley.
Well, thank you so much, Minghua. It's really a great pleasure for me to be back on this very, very special occasion. Before I really get into my remarks, I want to acknowledge a few people who have been great friends to Stony Brook University and take this opportunity to acknowledge them. We have members of the Stony Brook Foundation here today, Rich Gelfond, who I'll introduce again in a second. Dorothy Lichtenstein, I think, may be joining us. Don't see her yet, but she may be here. And we also have a number of elected officials in the audience. Congressman Tim Bishop will be joining us. We know he's en route. Luckily, he's towards the end of the program, so we know we're going to get him in. But we also have Assemblyman Fred Thiele, who I'll introduce again in the program. Fred. Suffolk County Legislator Jay Schneiderman. Jay? Yeah, coming late, I guess. Mark Epley, I know he's here, Mayor of Southampton. There he is, Southampton Village, Mark. And Southampton Town Trustees, Eric Schultz. There he is. Ed Warner. Ed, there. And Fred Havemeyer. Fred, there he is. Representing the School of Marine and Atmospheric Sciences Dean Council are Michael White and Jane Ross. Are they here? There they are. There's Jane. And I'm also pleased to recognize Kevin McAllister, the Shinnecock Bay keeper. Kevin, there he is. And Frank Trotta of the Stony Brook Council. Frank, where are you? There he is, right. So I'm happy to see so many familiar faces. And it's just really less than 3 months ago that we gathered here for the groundbreaking of the new Marine Research Center. That facility, once complete, represents our continued investment in Stony Brook, Southampton, and will help us to continue to attract top faculty and students to our campus and our marine sciences program. As Minghua said, now rated number 6 in the world in the NRC rankings. And the School of Marine and Atmospheric Sciences is not the only part of the exciting things that are flourishing here. This summer, our nationally prominent graduate program in the arts expanded from creative writing to theater, film, and visual arts, hosting close to 400 graduate students and the most distinguished arts faculty in the country. I'm so pleased that under the dynamic leadership of Robert Reeves, Associate Provost for Southampton Arts, this program continues to move forward. Robert, take a bow here. Thank you. Now, most importantly, I want to welcome Laurie Landeau and Bob Mays. The generous philanthropy of the Landeau Foundation, which carries on the legacy of Claire and Ralph Landeau, in conjunction with a matching challenge grant from the SoMAS Foundation, has enabled us to initiate the first phase of the Shinnecock Bay Restoration Program. In combination, these generous grants will help restore Shinnecock Bay to the healthy and productive state it once enjoyed, and this program we hope will ultimately serve as a template for other programs worldwide. This program is remarkable in its use of science, outreach, and partnerships to restore the water quality and fisheries of Shinnecock Bay. The reality is, in order for Stony Brook and the School of Marine and Atmospheric Sciences to truly achieve our mission, we cannot just rely on state support. It's been absolutely critical, but we can't just rely on state support. We need more great partnerships like the one exemplified today. That is why I'm so glad to introduce first Rich Gelfond, the CEO of IMAX, the founder of the Gelfond Fund for Mercury Research and Outreach, a recent honoree of the New York League of Conservation Voters, and a very great friend of Stony Brook as chair of the Stony Brook Foundation, and my partner in helping to raise funds for Stony Brook. Please welcome Rich Gelfond.
Thanks, Sam. It's my great pleasure to be here today and to have the opportunity to extend my sincere thanks to the Landeau Foundation and the SoMAS Foundation for this wonderful grant, which will help further the restoration of Shinnecock Bay. As a resident of the community, I care deeply about this body of water which surrounds us and runs from Quogue to Meadow Lane in Southampton and is an integral part of what makes Southampton so special and the Hamptons so special in general. As someone who has survived severe mercury poisoning, I've experienced the dangers of environmental contaminants becoming part of our food supply, an increasingly likely scenario as red tides, which produce a toxin that could accumulate in shellfish and lead to serious illness and even fatalities when consumed by humans, become more common. And I think the focus on the environment and the water supply and its interplay with human life around it is really important message to send forward. Most importantly, as an alumnus who benefited enormously from a Stony Brook education, I'm so happy that Stony Brook has the opportunity to make such an impact in the Southampton area. And I know Sam and I know the entire university is really committed to Southampton College and committed very much to this program. Finally, I have to say, and this isn't in the remarks they wrote for me, so I have to put these away, as someone who really loves to eat oysters, and especially Long Island oysters, and I travel all kinds of seafood shops to find the best oysters in Long Island, I'm incredibly grateful that we're going to have the Shinnecock oysters back. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Rich. It's now my great pleasure to introduce Laurie Landeau. Laurie, an aquatic animal veterinarian, was first introduced to Stony Brook, Southampton when she was looking for a place to host Aquavet, a well-known 4-week introduction to aquatic veterinary medicine, which had formerly been held each summer at the Marine Biological Laboratory at Woods Hole, Massachusetts. It turned into a happy collaboration, and while she was here, Laurie became acquainted with the work of our SoMAS faculty member, particularly Chris Gobler, and his research on harmful algal blooms. Impressed with our program, she joined the SoMAS Dean Council, where she learned even more about the breadth and depth of the research conducted by our 100 resident faculty and staff and 150 graduate students. Intrigued by the concept of the Shinnecock Bay Restoration Program, the Landeau Foundation funded a series of pilot projects to help identify the best path to restore the bay. These pilot projects led to a targeted and integrated restoration plan, one which uses the floral and faunal strengths to aid the bay. Knowing that this project could become a template for restoring and strengthening estuarine environments across the world, the Landeau Foundation, carrying on Ralph and Claire Landeau's interest in the marine environment, decided to invest further. We are gathered here today both to announce this grant and to celebrate it and the impact it's going to have on Shinnecock Bay. Laurie, I'm deeply honored that the Landeau Foundation has chosen to tie the legacy of your parents to the Shinnecock Bay Restoration Program of Stony Brook School of Marine and Atmospheric Sciences. Please accept my gratitude for the Landeau Foundation's wonderful gift, both personally and on behalf of my faculty colleagues. Thank you so much, Laurie.
It's really bad when you start by putting your glasses on upside down. Science. I want you to savor this word because that's why we're all here today. Too often when nature goes awry, we want to fix it with wishful thinking when we really should be trying to fix it with science. There have been many well-intentioned plans for undoing what we've done to the environment that have failed just simply because they did not have the benefit of the scientific method to guide them. What sets this effort by Stony Brook apart is Stony Brook University. It's so long been strong in marine science, and it's bringing to bear its expertise and proceeding with discipline and with a rational experimental design. Shinnecock Bay is just the perfect microcosm to actually prove out the methodology that will be developed here by Stony Brook in the future. There's nothing better than feeling really, really good about a project that you've invested in as the president of a foundation. Our experience with Stony Brook has just been nothing but rewarding. Knowing that here we have, I think, the perfect storm of talented people, a great institution, and a will to reverse the decline of Shinnecock Bay that is shared by all the stakeholders. And that's unusual. The great thing about the scientific method is that what we learn here will potentially have application elsewhere. You've just heard that said multiple times. Obviously, we all see that point. But what's really important is even if the exact way that Shinnecock is restored doesn't translate to another locale, the rigorous form of research that led up to the positive action here will be universal. And it will be a model for the marine and ecosystems everywhere. For me personally, being able to fund this initiative through my parents' foundation allows me to continue my commitment to conservation and preservation. As a veterinarian, as you learned, I work not only with horses, but I also teach a course in aquatic animal and environmental medicine to veterinary students. And it's been pointed out that's how I came to know Shinnecock Bay and really a lot more about Stony Brook University than I had. I grew up in Northport, so it's Stony Brook wasn't a complete mystery. I used to go and watch Marx Brothers films on the campus when I was young. But I have long championed the responsible stewardship of both working lands and working waters, and I've transferred this interest in the environment and how we interact with it to many, many of my students over the last 30 years. Some of those students have even attended Stony Brook. So, how exciting if we can bring back this fabulous body of water to its previous productivity and health through the Shinnecock Bay Restoration Program. I think everyone here can share that excitement and understand the value of this investment. Whether Shinnecock Bay is in your backyard or not, it doesn't matter. It's universally important. So, today, let us celebrate what science, together with a little thoughtfully placed financial support, can do for the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Laurie. Now I'm delighted to introduce Bob Mays. Bob has a PhD in ecological parasitology. He is an aquavet lecturer and is the founder of Marinetics on Maryland's eastern shore, which raises 1 to 2 million oysters and rafts on the surface of the Choptank River every year. As someone who witnessed firsthand how the overharvesting and degradation of the Chesapeake's ecosystem had virtually wiped out the wild oyster population there, and as someone who has witnessed misplaced restoration efforts in the Chesapeake, Bob sees the big picture. He understood from the start that one of the most important outcomes for this project was the possibility of developing transferable tools for global application. If restoration can be successful here, it has the potential to be reproduced on a larger scale in the Chesapeake and in other estuaries worldwide. Bob, thank you for your vision, your expertise, and your involvement. Bob.
Well, some of this is going to be redundant. You can say that again. This is an era of dynamic environmental change, and thus there exist crucial challenges we all must address if we want to retard the devastating impacts on our Earth's ecosystems. We see evidence of this deterioration almost daily. Harmful algal blooms, as we've heard, HABs, brown tides, mahogany tides, the Chesapeake, red tides that threaten shellfish beds, commercial fisheries, and in fact our own health. We all talk about the need for action, but what the Shinnecock Bay Restoration Program is not merely a call to action, but action. Action in the most affirmative way that both science and the community can act. I speak with some authority on this subject. My doctorate was all about ecological interaction. Subsequently, my life has been devoted to oyster aquaculture, not merely to provide jobs and a living, but also to investigate new methods of farming that can reduce the influence of disease on the oyster and to provide our customers with a safer product for consumption. From the standpoint of science, it would be hard to fault this plan. The strategy for bay restoration appears perfect. In the Petri dish of Shinnecock Bay, multivariate pilot studies already underway are identifying the most productive efforts that can be undertaken. This diverse, far-reaching, and powerful method of scientific analysis, the multifactorial approach, which addresses the biological as well as the physical parameters of the bay, is not limited only to investigation, but also to the application of effort. In terms of bay restoration, or any habitat for that matter, the approach is multi-pronged. With Shinnecock Bay, there are a multitude of environments, different areas of water movement, nutrient input that can destroy water quality, and habitats for a vast array of plant and animal species. Each of these life forms are adapted to perform their task the best in the area they inhabit. The Bay Restoration Program focuses on the strengths of each of these species resident in Shinnecock to improve water quality and replenish stocks of valuable fish and shellfish. Often restoration efforts have been too limited, or too often biting off more than they can chew, losing sight of the horizon by focusing on a single species. The Petri dish of Shinnecock is perfect. It's limited. It is being assessed by our best and brightest, addressing not one, but a multitude of species and physical parameters well. And thus, this restoration is doable. It is really very hard to restrain the enthusiasm we feel for this endeavor. Looking forward at the potential it holds for the future. Not only Shinnecock, but also other similar bays on Long Island. Then, this project could be the nucleus, the crown jewel of eventual restoration efforts in the Chesapeake and possibly worldwide. Bring back the bay. Other things will soon follow, such as commercial and sport fisheries. The elimination of the threat to public health from poor water quality. I spoke of the project's multifaceted approach and didn't mention the one facet that is crucial for success, the community. This facet has not been overlooked. This undertaking is a team effort, and it warms my heart that we, the public, are all stakeholders in it. By backing this novel, noteworthy, and ultimately significant endeavor, we can do good. Not just for Long Island, but perhaps for the entire world. By backing the Shinnecock Bay Restoration Program, feel assured that you're on the A-team. Thank you.
So it's now my great pleasure to introduce Chris Gobler. Chris is a professor in the School of Marine and Atmospheric Sciences and director of the academic programs for SoMAS at Stony Brook, Southampton. He's a leading expert on harmful algal blooms, whose research focuses on ocean acidification, aquatic ecosystems, including phytoplankton, estuarine ecology, and aquatic biogeochemistry. That's a mouthful, but it's all very important, I can assure you. Chris is the go-to guy for reporters and writers seeking an expert to discuss marine sciences issues affecting the Long Island Sound and coastal waterways across Long Island. And his expertise is going to be absolutely vital in restoring the delicate balance needed to ensure that Shinnecock Bay is restored to the beautiful ecosystem it once was. Chris.
Thank you, President Stanley, and thank you to the Landeau Foundation. So I grew up on Long Island, and in the 1970s, I'd actually come out to Shinnecock Bay to fish, even though that I didn't live around here. My grandfather would specifically take me out here because it was such a lush and robust ecosystem. If you went back to that time in the 1970s, the South Shore of Long Island was yielding, or the clams out of the South Shore of Long Island were providing most of the clams eaten on the entire east coast of the United States. And if you talk to people who are around here, the eelgrass beds extended all the way from West Hampton to where we are here in Southampton. But unfortunately, this system's changed a lot since that time, as I think we're all aware. The clam harvests have collapsed. The eelgrass beds have vanished through much of Shinnecock Bay, particularly in the western region, where we're going to be focusing the most of our efforts for this project. In 1985, the first brown tide bloom ever occurred in Shinnecock Bay. And as most of you are probably aware, brown tide is acutely toxic to many shellfish, and that began a lot of these declines. And unfortunately, the news has gotten worse. In the last decade, we've had repeated red tides caused by a fish-killing algae that's actually occurring right now in Shinnecock Bay and in the Peconics, creating a situation whereby fishermen will pull up pound nets and find dead fish in their pound nets. And then in the last 2 years, we've had paralytic shellfish poisoning occurring in Shinnecock Bay, causing essentially the entire western half of the bay, more than 4,000 acres of shellfish beds, to be closed for extended periods because paralytic shellfish poisoning is not only, well, it's a human health syndrome, and it can be dangerous to human health, can also be lethal. And then concurrently, as I said, we've lost the clams, we've lost the eelgrass, and the system's going down in a downward spiral because the fewer shellfish you have to filter the bay, the more intense these algal blooms are getting. In fact, I've traveled the world in the last year studying brown tides in China. I have colleagues looking at the same brown tides in South Africa. I'm looking at brown tides all up down the east coast of the United States. And actually, it's unfortunate to say the brown tides are the most intense and the worst here in Shinnecock Bay, more intense than they are anywhere else in the entire world. So we've got problems that need to be addressed. But despite all this gloom, in the end, I actually am an optimist. And I'd like to point out my colleague, Dr. Bradley Peterson here, who's one of the co-investigators of the Shinnecock Bay Restoration Program. Now, it's during the last decade that Brad and I have been carefully looking at the Shinnecock Bay ecosystem. And we've noted this decline, but we've also been doing a lot of research, trying to understand what would be needed to maximize the growth of shellfish, maximize the extent of eelgrass beds, and what's controlling and promoting these harmful algal blooms. So through a decade of science, there is hope, because we do have a sense of what kind of restoration will work in Shinnecock Bay, which shellfish will do best where, and where the eelgrass can be restored. So I'm confident that together, using the science and the research that we've been working very hard at over the last decade, that we have the great potential to reverse this negative trajectory and restore the ecosystem of Shinnecock Bay.
Thanks so much, Chris. It's now my pleasure to introduce Ellen Pickich. Ellen is a professor in the School of Marine and Atmospheric Sciences and executive director of the Institute for Ocean Conservation Science, an organization which she established at Stony Brook University in 2008. She is a world-renowned expert in fisheries sciences, conservation, and management, and she's worked on a variety of issues across the globe. Her expertise has informed federal, regional, and international policy decisions and treaties, including endangered species protections and trade agreements. Ellen conceived of the Shinnecock Bay Restoration Program as a means to advance scientific understanding, achieve conservation, and provide added educational and community benefits. Please join me in welcoming Ellen Pickich. Ellen.
Thank you, President Stanley, and welcome everyone here today. So as was mentioned, I got here in 2008, and one of the things that attracted me to move my institute to Stony Brook University was the marine science campus here, the excellent faculty who are my colleagues now, and the fleet of vessels that we have, all of the assets that can be used to do fabulous science. But my particular interests are in conservation, and I also was looking around for something where we could make a real difference, a positive difference. And while it's sad to hear that Shinnecock Bay is in such a degraded state, and now you've heard it from each speaker, one at a time, the news is that I do believe that this is a fixable problem. And as Bob Mays put it, you know, we actually can do this. And what a great thing to have a project like this in our own backyard, where students, the community, a cadre of citizen scientists, our partner organizations can all be part of something, not just learning the science, which is truly important, but actually restoring a bay to health. Wouldn't that be a great thing if you were in school, if you could actually do that? Our students will be able to do that as part of their education. So I got the tough task of saying, like, how are we going to do this? I actually have to say how we're going to do it. And so let me just go back one little step. What are the problems here? To put it in a nutshell, there are too many nutrients that are coming into the bay, and there are not enough live organisms in the bay to use those nutrients. And what we're going to do, our focus is on the second part, to put more live organisms in the bay, to use those nutrients, to clear the water up, to allow the eelgrass meadows to flourish yet again, to serve as habitat for small fish that can use this as shelter and a place to feed. Our previous research, as Dr. Gobler has mentioned, which we've been conducting a series of pilot studies over the past 2 years, have provided us with a baseline. We know where things are and how they differ in different parts of the bay. And we also know what strains and species of shellfish and eelgrass are most likely to take hold and to reproduce and survive here. So we also know the best locations to get the work started. One of the things that will be really important to our efforts is to work with local authorities to create what we will call sanctuaries. So we're not just going to throw a bunch of shellfish into the bay and put eelgrass willy-nilly. We're going to put them in places that not only make sense from a scientific standpoint, but are also places where these organisms can be left undisturbed to grow, to reproduce, and perhaps to the point where they start seeding other areas of the bay and create a situation that's not only restored, but is self-sustaining. That's really the goal, not only to restore the bay, but to bring it to a point where it stays in that restored condition on its very own. So creating sanctuaries where no fishing will be allowed, no habitat destructive activities will be allowed, is going to be an important part of the program and is going to depend very much on these partnerships that we have been developing as part of the program. We also are going to be spending quite a bit of time communicating what we're doing and reaching out to the community for help. We have a website that's up and running as of today, and I invite you, it's on the program, the web address for it, I invite you to go and look at it. There are videos up there, photos of the people who are working on the project, and also a way for you to find out and to get alerts as things go by of how you personally can help. So, thanks to the generous support of the Landeau Foundation, the Simons Foundation, and others, we are able to begin the task of restoring Shinnecock Bay. We envision that our efforts will halt the downward spiral that has taken hold of this bay and will jumpstart an improvement of the conditions here. And with additional funding that we hope will come to build on the generous donations that have been made, we expect to see a return of a self-sustaining estuary thriving with a great abundance of marine wildlife and a great diversity, supporting a wide variety of uses. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ellen. Before I introduce our next speaker, I wanted to acknowledge some people who are in the audience who I missed previously. The town supervisor of Southampton, Anna Thron-Holst. Where is she? There she is. Good. Christina Scalera on the town council. Good, okay. Welcome. And Jay Schneiderman is now here. Jay? There he is, right there. Deborah Klugers, East Hampton trustee. Deborah, there she is. Thank you for coming. And someone who's been a wonderful project supporter, Maureen Sherry Klinsky. I'm now delighted to introduce Eric Schultz, president of the Southampton Town Trustees, a governing body that dates back to 1686, whose responsibilities include both protecting water quality and promoting sustainable shellfish in town waters. They're going to be key partners with us in the Shinnecock Bay Restoration Program, as they're going to assist the program by sharing their historic knowledge of the bay, communicating the goals of the programs to citizens, and ensuring that the laws needed to ensure the success of the program are in place. Eric.
We in Southampton are blessed with a wide variety of natural resources. Our 26,000 acres of bays, our 100 lakes and ponds, and our 26 miles of pristine ocean beaches. But we're also fortunate to have another valuable resource, and that's Stony Brook University and its marine science program. Southampton provides the outdoor laboratory, and the college provides the expertise. We're lucky to be able to draw on the world-class knowledge that Dr. Gobler and his colleagues bring to the area. And we trustees, by the way, we're the oldest continually elected board in North America. We're charged with the management of our waters, and the staff of the marine program makes our job easier. It enables us to make informed and confident decisions about the management of our bays. The Shinnecock Bay Restoration Project will bring about an increased cooperation on both of our parts. Our Greek philosopher once said that the foundation of any state is the education of its youth. The foundation to the success of this program should be the education of all our residents to the importance of clean waterways and the reducing of pollutants that degrade them. Our waters and beaches are our economic engine, and their continued purity will ensure the future prosperity of this town. Our bays face a host of stresses from outside sources, and we need to increase our efforts and totally focus on its recovery by increasing the number of shellfish, and that's critical to a healthy bay. With the college's help, we'll research what areas need to be set aside for additional breeder sanctuaries, and what areas will be reseeded with shellfish, and oyster reefs will play a very important part in this. This joint effort is a huge undertaking, and the trustees pledge our full support and cooperation and look forward to a cleaner bay, an educated population, and the continued success of Stony Brook University. Thank you.
It's now my great pleasure to introduce Congressman Tim Bishop. As a lifelong resident of Southampton, Tim Bishop has been a powerful advocate for the Shinnecock Bay and a supporter for its restoration. In Washington, Tim serves on the Water Resources and Environment Committee, where he works to preserve environmental resources such as this to ensure that they will be healthy for future generations to enjoy. Please join me in welcoming Congressman Tim Bishop.
Good morning to all of you, and it's a real pleasure to be here. It's always great for me to be back on this campus and see some of my former colleagues and still friends, and to say that this is a great thing. I want to start by commending and thanking the Landau Foundation for their generosity, and for the SoMAS Foundation for the commitment that they've made, the transformative commitment that they've made to Stony Brook University, and to say that this is the way things are supposed to work. This is the public and the private sector coming together. This is philanthropy being applied for a good use. And this is academics being applied for a real practical solution to a very real problem. This is not ivory tower academics, and by the way, we need that. But this is academics and scientific principles being brought to bear to provide an environmental benefit and an economic benefit. And in the process of providing that economic benefit, we are also preserving our heritage. So I think from every conceivable vantage point, this is a good thing, and I am delighted that the leadership Stony Brook University has shown in bringing forward the great work that has happened on this campus for a long, long time. And I must observe that I never thought I would see Chris Gobler in a tie. Where's Chris? But I will also say that the students who will get to work with Chris and his colleagues are very lucky indeed. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much, Tim. It's now my great pleasure to introduce Assemblyman Fred Thiele. Fred has been an outspoken and powerful supporter of the vital importance of the preservation and restoration of the Shinnecock Bay. As a member of the Assembly Environmental Conservation Committee, he has worked tirelessly to ensure that all of our state's natural resources receive the investment and care they need. Please join me in welcoming Assemblyman Fred Thiele. Fred.
Well, according to my program, I am the 10th and final speaker. Hold your applause. Thank you. It reminds me, and Tim Bishop has heard me tell this joke too many times, but it reminds me of the old joke about being Elizabeth Taylor's fifth husband when you speak 10th, and that is, I know what it is what I'm supposed to do, I just hope that I can make it interesting for you. So, this is a really important day. We've had several really important days out here in recent times, and certainly it was great to be here not that long ago for the groundbreaking of the new marine sciences facility that's going to be built here at Southampton. But this is equally important, and that is the public-private partnership that's being created here to study the Shinnecock Bay and to come up with a plan, not just study it, to come up with a plan and implementation for its restoration. There is a strong conservation ethic here on the east end of Long Island. We see it in many ways. The fact that the South Shore Bays are already part of a state estuary program, that the Peconic Bay is part of a national estuary program, that we've taken a leadership role in land preservation to protect watersheds, tells you that this is the right place for this kind of program. And again, we're so happy that Stony Brook is such an important presence here on the east end of Long Island. And this is what it's all about. A lot of times people say, well, you know, the college is there, they do research, we don't know what they do. But the fact of the matter is this is an opportunity where people are going to see directly, local people are going to see the benefit of science, the benefit of education, because this resource behind me isn't just an environmental and ecological resource. It is part of our local economy. And for all of those reasons, we are thankful, and I want to express my personal thanks to the Landeau Foundation, to the SoMAS Foundation, to Stony Brook University, and finally, I just want to say that my partner in the state legislature, Senator Ken Lavelle, could not be here today. Those of you that know the senator knows that he seldom, if ever, misses a chance to be on this campus, and you will know him by his red baseball cap. But he has been a key player, not just with the university, but in protecting the East End environment. And I wanted to also, on his behalf, express our thanks to the Landeau Foundation, to the university. We look forward to this work. And we know that it's going to bear fruit, and we on the East End will be the benefit of all of that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fred, for that very eloquent summary of what we're doing. And again, thank you also for acknowledging Ken's important work here. So that concludes the formal remarks.